Well, hi everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Wrestling Huddle. I'm Review Sports Editor Mike Brown, and we're joined by our wrestling guru, as always, Bob Steer. Bob, we had some more NBC action last weekend, some good matches again. Let's talk about the Marlington-Minerva match last week.
Marlington-Minerva match, it went down about like I expected, coming off the West Branch win. Marlington, I think, picked up a head of steam, and they had a little down, the duels afterwards, but I expected them to get back up. And like I say, Minerva just doesn't have the depth.
Right.
They have some really good kids, and, in particular, one match that jumped out is Dalton Hartshorn bumping up and beating Tony Rupert in a real entertaining match, as you would expect from those two. Right. I believe it was 8-6, and then from there, we'll talk in a little bit, but Hartshorn went on to have a great weekend, too. So.
I tell you what, when you look ahead, we turned the clock ahead of the middle of March in the state tournament. When you talk about Dalton Hartshorn, there's a kid who's got a chance to really do something in Columbus, I think, this spring.
I think all those guys that have battled these first few weeks, you got Spencer Nagy, beating Hartshorn.
Right.
You got Hartshorn beating Rupert.
Yeah.
Rupert can go with, any of those guys. All three of those.
That's a great weight class, isn't it?
All three of those guys, I expect to really be able to make some noise.
Right. And then a couple of the other matches last week, the Alliance Aviators went to Salem and took care of business again, and that was without Christian Jackson, who's out the lineup, injured right now, and they went down there and got a good win. And again, Coach Shaw's got a role in Alliance.
Yeah, he does. Again, that was a result that was expected, but you still have to go take care of business.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what they did. They went and took care of business, and they're rolling along.
Yeah, the thing about Alliance this year, unlike some teams prior to Coach Shaw taking the head coaching job there, Alliance is starting to build some depth with some. They've got some really good young kids moving up. I think it's their freshman class is pretty good, is it not, Bob?
They do. We talked about it last year that it was only a few years ago that Alliance only had 7 kids. They were forfeiting half the matches. When you went to Wrestle Alliance, nobody in the league really wanted to go Wrestle Alliance because half the matches were forfeits.
Right.
They've got a full lineup, plus in some spots they've got a little depth at certain weights, and it's definitely helped by a significantly good-sized freshman class and some very talented kids in that freshman class.
Yeah, I think they're about to go through a great wrestling run at Alliance because of that talent that's available to them now. So.
Yep.
And then obviously the third NBC match last week, West Branch had the Canton South Wildcats in Beloit and took care of business in that one. Talk about that one a little bit, Bob.
Yeah, West Branch responded well to some adversity that they haven't faced in a long time, and they came out and excuse me, like you said, they took care of business too.
Right.
We knew coming in on paper they were significantly better than Canton South, but again, you still have to go out and do it, and they went out and I think they made a little statement that there's a lot of season left, and West Branch is going to be a team to be reckoned with when it comes down to the final weeks of the season.
No doubt about that. Now, you covered that match, Bob. Were there any kids for West Branch in particular that you want to single out from that match? Anybody who really had a good win that night?
Boy, I have to think back. Yeah. Travis Pigeon came out and made a statement.
Okay.
He came out and made a statement because a first period tech pin is an impressive feat,
amazing.
No matter who you're wrestling.
It sure
he
is.
racked up 13, 15 points before, and then was able to secure the pin to get to 16 points.
Yeah.
And there were some other good matches, a couple good matches. I can't recall off the top of my head.
It was a very workmanlike win, and they
really
just did
was.
the things they were supposed to do.
They just went out and did what they were supposed to do, and it was a good win. It was good for them to get back on track. And it seems like they're getting back on track.
Oh, that's good. Well, turning to this week, because it's a holiday week, obviously, Thursday night is usually an NBC wrestling night. That's not the case this week because of Christmas. So we have a very light schedule. It looks like, Marlington doesn't have anything scheduled this weekend, nor does Alliance. But West Branch is going to go somewhere new. Tell us about that one.
West Branch will be heading down to Dayton to wrestle in the Greater Miami Valley Wrestling Coaches Association Classic.
I'm impressed. You got that well. That's good.
It's a huge tournament. Yep. The North Canton tournament they were in last weekend was like 30, 35 teams. This one's like 50, 55 teams. Wow. And the good thing for West Branch, I'm talking to Coach Brown, 2 things. One, it gets our kids some exposure to some of those southern referees that you might see in Columbus.
Well, that's true.
And gets them familiar with our guys too. So there's some familiarity there. But it's also a kind of tournament because Southern Ohio wrestling isn't quite at the level of Northern Ohio.
Right.
So a lot of those average teams that are in that tournament, some of the West Branch guys, not their superstars, but some of their average guys should be able to pick up some wins down there. I think there's a good chance for West Branch to have a real good showing in that tournament, just because there's so many teams, and I think they're going to have a lot of guys should be able to pick up a lot of wins, and. But it's also a top-heavy tournament because you have the number 1 team in the country, St. Paris Graham, there. So if you win enough times, you're eventually going to run into a hammer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I think that'll do it for this week's edition of the Huddle. Next week we'll be back to normal. We'll have a few more matches to talk about next week. But until then, for Bob Steer, this is Mike Brown. We'll see you on the mat.